Okay, I started the recording. All right, it is 3 minutes past. I'm going to introduce myself. My name is Andy. I'm with Reason Consulting. I am in sales, but I have somebody who people you probably would like is Victoria is my co-host with me. Raise your hand and wave to everyone. Thank you, Victoria. Victoria is leading our marketing, and she is going to help me keep on the straight and narrow, and so that I can, not mess this up too terribly. All right, let me first go through the introduction. I'm going to share my screen. Oh, before I get to that, hello, Danny. How you doing? What I'm going to do is I'm already recording for everyone who's joining. I have there's a chat at the bottom where people can send in chat. Victoria will be monitoring the chat and the question and answer. In the chat, you can just send stuff like you can put questions as well. And what I'll do is I'll try to do some part of the presentation, and then if there's any questions, I'll answer questions as I go. And then the other part on housekeeping is there's a part down at the bottom right of the Google Meet for activities. If you click on it, there's a QA where you can send in the QA. So I'm going to share my screen. All right. Oh, and everyone is muted because I don't, it's just easier to do a call with so many people all across the country on that it's like that. All right, so let me share my screen. Okay, hopefully you can all see my screen. All right, so let me expand this and go into the slideshow. Okay, so first I'm going to do is I did the introduction. I introduced Victoria and myself. There's a little bit of rules. We went over the rules. You've been muted, but you can communicate. Victoria is monitoring the Q&A. I'm going to do some polls. I've created 2 poll questions to send out there to people. I would love to have your feedback and let me know what you think. We're trying something new in Reason. In the last couple of years, we've done more officious webinars, and this is kind of a throw it together call and see who joins and try to make it more interactive and less structured than like a webinar. I'm going to do a demonstration of CAVS, the product that you came to see, hopefully, and then another poll, and then question and answer at the end. At any time, hopefully you have my email and whatnot. You can say, hey, I want a longer thing on this, or have questions or whatnot. We can get done afterwards. All right, so for those of you who have not met Reason Consulting, I'm going to do a real quick introduction. I don't like it when I'm in meetings and someone does a long introduction of their company because it bores me, but I do feel it's kind of necessary to set the stage. If you are not interacting with us as a customer and you're like, who in the world is Reason Consulting and how did I get this invite and what is this about? All right, so we're a startup business still. That's how at least we feel about ourselves. We founded in 22, and we're now 33 personnel with 2 offices, and we're in 16 states. We're doing 2 big things. One of them is TaxScribe, and the other is AuditAware. So at the bottom you see, TaxScribe and AuditAware. Real quickly on TaxScribe is we're building out a nationwide paperless data management solution. Some people would say, hey, is that an e-file? It is much more than an e-file, so it does it an injustice to say an e-file. But we started with building an interface for local government to take the BPP paper forms, and we've started to expand. And what we did that's different is that we're not a CAMA. and we're not. Thus, we're kind of agnostic from CAMA, so we can integrate with any CAMA or billing system that's out there. And the other really big difference for us in this solution set is that we're building this with the intention of attracting the large accounting firms, the regional accounting firms, the national brands, the regional companies, because the solutions that are out there are not meant for them. So I know that the local government has a pain point in e-file and paperless, which is opening the mail and typing it into your CAMA or billing system, and a bunch of other headaches and communicating to the filer, things like that. But those aren't the same headaches as the actual filer. So these big accounting firms and large national brands, they want one interface. And so we're building that. We're building it national. By June 1st, we should be done with all the business personal property forms in all of the states that have business personal property forms. So all 37 plus DC. And we've already started sales and use tax, which I know is a state thing, but we've already started it for North Carolina, and we will have by the end of next year all of those done. So all the states, all the forms, to really attract the really big accounting firms like KPMG. And we've already started to get businesses and accounting firms signing up to file, even though, like I said, we're not going to be finished with all the BPP until June 1. All right, but that's not how we came here. You came here for CAVS, and that's part of Audit Aware, and that is a suite of products. I'm going to go down here real quick. It's on the business personal property side. What we looked at is the business personal property taxation cycle, and we looked at the discovery piece here in your annual cycle as something that didn't have a lot of products built to help you out. And so we have we will have 4 in the future, but right now we have 3 built out. I'm going to talk about CAVS, which is what we kind of consider phase 3 in the discovery. We have a digital canvas and a case manager and a CAVS. I'm going to get more into the CAVS in a second, but it looks like this. I'm going to go real fast. If you want a demonstration of this later on, let me know. But essentially, digital canvas and case manager look like this, where we take your data and we hit it against a bunch of outside data of what businesses to help you tell you what's new and closed and all kinds of things, and an interactive live Google map. It's super cool. And then a case manager to manage all of those things. So you're tracking a new business in here, and it's telling you all this information to help you canvas the new and closed businesses. And then rather than tracking them on paper and managers like who's doing what, we've built a case manager which we're pouring a lot of investment into, and because we have customers now in 7 states on this product, so we're getting feedback from them and to how to improve it. And then we think as you find a new business and track it, we think that there's still a chance that they'll be non-compliant, and thus the third phase is CAVS. So I'm going to go into a big thing on CAVS. CAVS is a tool for non-compliant businesses where this non-compliant business has not filed, it's not self-assessed, and you want to get them into compliance. So with that, I'm going to go and do a demonstration of CAVS, but before I do it, I'm going to do a poll. This is where hopefully you're still with me here, and I'm going to do a poll. Hold on, and I've never done this before, so don't shoot me here. Hold on, I'm doing a poll. Okay, I'm gonna launch it. Hopefully you guys can see the poll. The question is, how many non-compliant businesses who have not self-assessed do you have in your jurisdiction? I know that I once talked to a county in Georgia, and they said I have over 200. And so I'm like, wow, over 200. The that's certainly something you want to take, you know, get under control. Okay, so we're starting to get some voting in. There's 1 to 20, 21 to 40, 41 to 70, 71 to 100, and then oh my, over 100. And these are businesses that you know about, or and they haven't self-assessed, and you're like, man, I would love to get them to be compliant. Let's make this happen. So I'm going to now share. Let's go into CAVS. Okay, so here's our CAVS. This is our, you guys hopefully can still see my screen. Okay, so this is our website for CAVS. It's software as a service. There's no installation into your, onto your computers. There's no real talking to IT. It is a login as you would go to Google or anything like that, and then you would go and log in. And when you go to log in, it will look like this, because I'm already logged in. It will look like this. I'm gonna bring this up. It'll look like this. Just like any other software program that you've already you use at home or at the office, well, you'll have your own password and your email to log in. And so then when you log in, what we have done, I'm gonna go over here to new estimates, is what we have done is we have created, now I do believe we're way over 450 now. I've not fully counted. So let's orient you to what you're looking at. So first off, there's buttons up here at the top. And then down here are a whole bunch of business template names alphabetically. So as I scroll down, you'll see, architecture firm, auction company. Then you get into auto body, auto cleaning, auto dealer, auto dent, auto glass. What's an auto glass repair shop? That's the Safe Light Repair, Safe Light Replace, right? And next to it, as I'm scroll down alphabetically, you will see the NAICS number that corresponds with that industry. Now there's a whole bunch of stuff over here, which I'm going to get into, but let's just keep with what we're looking at right now is alphabetically the industries. And like I said, we have created templates of businesses and the corresponding average assets that a business of that type would have. So scroll down. I've already done auto body. Keep scrolling down. There's bakery and bank. Keep scrolling down. Get the billiards. Now I can hit load more, and I can go all the way to yoga, or I can go up here and I can type in something. Now, if you've seen a demonstration from me before, you know I always do manufacturing, right? So I can type in something like manufacturing, and everything with that we've built an estimate for in manufacturing will pop up. Now, we've done one for filtration, ink cartridge, mattress, sheet metal, and there's so many different kinds of manufacturing that we have a miscellaneous one as well. So let's look at sheet metal manufacturing and what are the typical assets of a sheet metal manufacturer. And so I'm going to go over here to this green button. I'm going to go over this in a second. Let's scroll down. What are the typical assets where they're going to have an air compressor, a cutting machine, forklift, grinder, jacks, milling machine, saws, welders, right? And here's the prices net new at your fingertips. And then we're looking at a 10-person sheet metal manufacturer, we're looking at an estimate of about this. Now, you could say, Andy, our jurisdiction has a sheet metal manufacturer, but it doesn't have 10 employees. This is useless to me. This is something that we allow you to scroll up and down. And if you scroll down, you'll see that the estimate also changed. And what that means is a 6-person sheet metal manufacturer will need fewer welders and saws and other pieces of equipment like grinders and jacks. And so this total will be a little different. This sometimes makes more sense to people when we're doing like an architectural firm, an accounting firm, a law firm, and the number of lawyers or accountants goes up and down. Well, above here, those assets would be things like computers, desks, chairs. Those things will go up and down, and thus the total will change. Now, this is where I'm going to preempt a question. One of the questions is going to be, Andy, how come CAVS did not do it by square footage? And the answer is, we thought about doing it by square footage, but we wound up finding that some counties will have a very dense city area and a rural area, and it'll be identical businesses, but in the rural area, since land isn't as expensive, that same business could have a much larger square footage, yet still be the same assets. And so we found that doing it by the number of employees was a smarter way and a more effective way to do an estimation. All right, but before I go into anything else, I'm gonna go back up here to new estimate. And again, I'm here looking at them alphabetically. And now I've actually shown what this number is. We had a starting number. So this is a little search bar, and I could type in things like salon, and I can see hair salon, nail salon, spa salon, tanning salon, or I can type in restaurant and see different types of restaurants. Now, you will see that there is there's an NAICS number here. I can actually search, and Sandy, this may be new to you. I don't think we allowed you to do a search before by NAICS code before, but when you search, you can search on NAICS number. And so if you know the number but not like the name of the business or the business template type, you can search by NAICS if we have it. Now you'll see there's 4 businesses or 4 distinct industries that we've created with the same number. Well, that's because we think that a pizza restaurant's assets are uniquely different than, for instance, a fast food restaurant, and so we give you this separate template to choose from. All right, so let's go over here. So some of you that are on this call are customers of ours, and that's something new. I don't believe you were able to search by NAICS number, and so there's something for you. I have a whole bunch of other things that are new to it as well, so I will be pointing out the new things as we go. If I were to type in something like food, for instance, different things with food would pop up, and it's kind of all over the place. If you're wondering, like, well, what in the world is a food broker, right? Well, what we did is you can always hover over this little I, and then our definition of food broker will pop up. So in this case, it's a wholesale distribution of goods for like a restaurant would want to go someplace to buy, like restaurant stuff for it's a food broker. So I've explained all the little pieces of what you're looking at. Let's get rid of this. I think just like that. Okay. Now the search can be, what we tried to do is, all right, so we have customers all over the country, and what we have found is that, like in the South, they say that soda, they'll call it Coke, and up north with our Michigan and Indiana customers, they might call it pop. And so there are colloquialisms, and so what we've tried to do for like cannabis is we've tried to add, other terms in the name so that they'll find each other. So it all depends on how you search it. You will come up with the same. You'll come up with the same thing. Before we only had cannabis dispensary, and then I had customers call in saying, "Hey, you really should add marijuana dispensary." So we're trying to add different names as well to the different industries, so that you can more easily find it. We're also getting a lot of home-based businesses. So a lot of people are now working from home that never could work from home before and do businesses like that. And a lot of states are interested in that. You can just type in home, And then we've created a lot of home-based business types. So here's an attorney working out of his house. If I click on and look at that, I'm going to go over this in a second. What you will have is you'll have a very small law library, but they're going to have, you know, supplies, filing cabinets to store their things in a computer, things that would, now, of course, we were doing a sheet metal manufacturer before. You're not seeing forklifts, grinders, welders, because like these are different assets. This is a totally different business type. This is an attorney law office. Okay, so let's go back. I think I've covered things there. Okay, so now let's let me pause for a second before I keep going. And hold on here, let me just see here. And let's look at the let's look at the poll. Let's see if I can you guys see what the answers are in the poll so far? There's been 10 votes. 7 of the votes were over 100 businesses. 2 were 71 to 100, and 1 was 41 to 70. Okay, then this is hopefully this is the product that will help you out. This is the kind of thing. This is good. We're in the right direction. Okay, so let's create an assessment. Let's create an assessment, and I usually create one on a food truck. So if you've seen this before, I love picking on a food truck. But I'm going to give you a little story. Let's say Victoria, who's my co-host, she has a food truck, and it's Victoria's Tacos. And she has this food truck, and I am working the grill for Victoria's Tacos. And at lunch today, you guys all went outside your offices, and you saw that there was this big neon sign for Victoria's Tacos. And you're like, hey, let's go and get some tacos at this food truck. You noticed that Victoria yelled at Andy, but Andy was like, man, I'm making it as fast as I can, but this used grill is just terrible. And she's like, well, that's just what we've got. And you also notice that the chicken tacos are terrible, but in addition, she doesn't have a fire extinguisher. And you know by code that food trucks have to have a fire extinguisher. So you come back to the office, and you notice that Victoria's Tacos does not have, has not self-assessed and become a compliant business. And we want to create an assessment on Victoria's Tacos. So first, what we do is we could scroll down all the way to food truck, or we could type in truck and see different things for food truck and find it, right? All kinds of different truck things. Or we could type in food and find it, or type in food space truck. So here's a food truck. If we want to know more of a definition, we can roll over that, which it is a hot dog cart, ice cream truck type on wheels type thing. That sounds great. That's what we want to do. I want to go over here to this. I want to go over here to the start new estimate, and I want to click this green button. And I'm going to go over this in a second. But let's scroll down to where the assets are, and we're not seeing food welders and saws and stuff like that because this is a food truck. We're going to see the typical assets of a typical food truck: a generator, a point of sale system. We're going to see a menu board, refrigerator, freezer, oven, sink, grill. These are the typical assets. Oh, and fire extinguisher. But we know that this one doesn't have one. So we can alter the template that we're creating. So here's fire extinguisher, here's the value, net new, and we can go over here to this trash can and delete it. And now the trash can is now not part of it. You have not changed the template. So if you create a second food truck tomorrow, you know, Andy's Donuts, it will have a fire extinguisher. You're only changing it for the one you're currently working on. But also remember, in the grill, Andy was being yelled at because he was slow on the grill, but he was like, man, this is a used grill. And now, you know, it may not be net new. We could change the value of the grill. All you have to do is go in and change it. Now, you guys are on mute, or you'd be saying, Andy, you changed the wrong thing. You changed the refrigerator freezer. I'm going to reset it by hitting this button back to its default, and I'm going to change the grill and be right about it. Now, also, there was a big neon sign, so we can add an asset. So a neon sign is not a typical asset that a food truck has. So I can go here where it says asset name, and I can add an asset, and I could type in neon sign, and I can add a value to it here, and then I can hit plus, and now I've added neon sign. I can add as many assets as I want. Let's say there was a silly thing blowing in the wind to get my attention. I can give it a value, and now I've added a silly thing. This comes in handy because we'll have customers who have told me that they're like, I have a hair salon that is now doing tanning in the back. And so you saw earlier, we had tanning salon. You can go and grab assets of a tanning salon, like the hair sprayer, I've never had a self-tan. So it's a tanning booth, you know, and those assets, and you can grab those and add those tanning assets, if you will, one at a time to the hair salon template. And now you've created your own amalgam, and you can go nuts with that. And you can say, hey, the gas station down on along the highway also has a deli in the back, so you can add deli elements to the gas station template and things like that. Really quickly, you've created a template that you like. The number of employees, let's move that down to 2. It's not going to change it all that much, because the number of employees for a food truck is, you know, when it's 2 to 3, is not going to change it that much. And right now we have a subtotal of 9,700. We've built into it an adjustment factor. If you're a customer, and this is something that we did last year, so if you missed the user meeting we had in June, you did not hear about the adjustment factor. It's always been there, but we've increased it. So now you can adjust it up and down, like as much as you really want. Some people adjust things like, if I have to create an assessment on a business, I'm adding 10%, or the whole thing is used, I'm going to knock off, you know, 50% from the whole total. It all depends on what you want to do on the adjustment, but we've had a lot of jurisdictions ask for to be able to adjust it. You can put notes at the bottom. In this case, this is where you'd put the Victoria needs to know that her chicken tacos are terrible. Right now, let's scroll up to the top, because the whole point of this is not only can we see the estimation, and not only can we create an estimation that is repeatable and more equitable for the whole staff to have a template to start with, but we could also add the items up here so that we could create an actual form where we send to the business. So we look up Victoria's Food LLC. She registered with the state, but not all businesses do. And she's doing business as Victoria's Tacos. And it's a food truck. You can change this if you want. It's all changeable. And when we looked her up at the Secretary of State, we saw that she started her business on June 16, 2022. This is a little calendar here if you want to do it that way. You can add an account number if you have an account number. If you don't, that's fine. You can add a parcel number if you want to. Let's put in the street address that she gave, and we're going to put it as Virginia because that's where I live, God's country. And then it's Victoria as her name, and we don't know her phone number and email, but that's okay, because we're trying to fill out enough of the form so that if we send it to Victoria for Victoria's Tacos, she will know that it's about her. And we filled out all this information at the bottom, and now we can hit save. And where we'll find it is up here in my estimates. I can see that I created just a second ago this food truck, Victoria's Food. It's in draft. I can edit it if I want to, and go back in and edit it. But what we've created really quickly is, hey, I'm gonna download an itemized or a downloaded summary. I'm gonna download this form. And what we've created is, now, of course, this would say your jurisdiction, right? So this would say, you know, Mecklenburg County, North Carolina, or Waterbury, Connecticut, assessor, or however you, whatever you want here, and your address. But of course, since I created it from the Reason Consulting and our headquarters is in Charlotte, and our phone number, and then here's what I filled out from Victoria. And then you notice that I didn't have her email or phone number. They would have been here, but that's okay, because if Victoria gets this, she'll know it's about her. I could have put the account number, it would have put here, and the parcel number would have been here. And then you see the assets listed out. What you'll see is that there's no fire extinguisher, but there is neon sign and silly thing. And I changed the value of the grill. I didn't adjust it. Here's my notes and the date I created it, and the person who did create it. In this case, it was me. And what we've done is we've created a form that I can download or I can print. And if I print it, I can mail it, or I can keep it as my records, or I can download it and send it as an attachment if I have their email. We started to have customers, when a business comes in for the business license, they create a CAVS report right there, and they say, oh, you're starting a food truck. That's great. You filled out the business license. And they create an estimate just like this. They take the template, and they don't even fill out anything. They just print one out and they say, hey, when you want to self-assess, because you need to self-assess, here's the typical assets that we're looking for. And what they're finding is that is driving a higher compliance. So that's another use case. Now, if I go back, I can, that was itemized. I could also do it as a summary. And it's the same info up here. This is Reason Consulting, or where we are, but that would be you, of course. And this is Victoria's Food, everything we filled out without the address, email address or phone number. And then rather than all of the assets itemized, they are subtotaled, and everything else is the same. And some of our customers, they did not want it itemized. They wanted it subtotaled like this. And so that's where that is. Okay, so now let's go into, let's pause for a second, because I'll just talk and talk and talk about, let's see if there's any questions. Victoria, are there any questions? Hold on. No questions? All right. All right, I'm gonna show, all right, this is for, I'm gonna go back to here. This is the presentation. And I'm gonna go into this, and I'm gonna show, here's the, in the last, gosh, 6 months, these are the business types that were added. We added a bunch of things around farming. As you can see here, we added beekeeping, which is super cool because my wife happens to be a beekeeper. Hold on, I'll get to the questions. Let me just finish this real quick. We added laser skin, IV hydration, stock car racing, the brewery tap room. That was for a customer in Connecticut wanted that one. We added that one. Winery with bistro, a new food truck, wholesale, like totally bought new. We also added indoor sports facility. That was a big ask. A lot of people wanted a multi-use indoor sports facilities because those were starting to pop up everywhere. I had no idea of churches, but we had people ask for churches and nonprofits. Now let me go back into the product where you can click and request a new, and this is new as well, is a new industry right here, where if you click here, help at Reason goes right to our team. where you can say, hey, I want, this is a new business type that I want, that kind of thing. All right, so there's a bunch of questions, and now I'm going to, all right, here's a question. Once you have created the estimate, can you copy that estimate to use for another location or similar business, or do you have to start over? That's a great question. Unfortunately, you would have to start over, but you have it as a template to really quickly create them. So imagine that at any time, here's Victoria's food. You can, as you're working them, you can archive it and hit that red button. And then in your archived, which is this button, you would always have Victoria's food, and you can always just quickly look at what you created and download it. And then you're looking at what you put on it. And so you're saying, okay, I added these few things, and now I can go into the basic thing and add those one at a time. Unfortunately, we don't have that, but that's not a bad idea to be able to copy it. I will tell the engineers that that was suggested. Are there any other questions? Let me go into the chat of the thing. Oh, there's a QA. Yeah, let me go to the QA. Yeah, all right, that's that. All right. Okay, let me keep going then. So we have customers that are on here that are asking for like what things are new. Oh, 2 raised hands, and I'm trying to get them to type in their question. Okay, so if you've raised your hand, unfortunately, if I unmute, I can't unmute one person. It would unmute everyone, and then it'll open it up to chaos. There is a in the at the bottom of the Google Meet, you will see a whole bunch of buttons, and on the right is a little pop-up thing that looks like a thought bubble, and it says chat with everyone. You could type it in there, and then next to that is a triangle, a square, and a circle, and it says activities. When you hover over it, when you click that, there's a QA, and you can type in a question there as well. So one of those, and Victoria is monitoring that. Okay. All right, so what we did is we created quickly created a business type, and then we covered some of the buttons up here where this is where your estimates would be. We added this new feature where we're really looking for super users to give us feedback about business templates that they want. We've had people do research, and I'll tell you right now, there's one that we did. If I type in gas, wait a second, if I'm in new estimates and I type in gas, it's a different kind of gas with electric charger. This one was added by, or instigated to be added by Bob Rush from the city of Charlottesville, and he'd done the research for us, and he was like, Andy, you really ought to add this electric vehicle charger, because the level 3 vehicle chargers that are starting to pop up everywhere are more expensive than you think. So let's go into that for a second. And you know what this is now. If I scroll down, you will see level 3 electric car chargers, $95,000 a pop. Okay, so that is super expensive. And what we found when we did the research is that it's seemingly none of the engineers and none of the people at Reason were buying electric vehicles. And so we had really no idea. So we started to do research into it. And through doing the research and trying to price this out with how those things are done, I'll show you some of our logic. So electric, there we go, electric vehicle charger price. What we started to find out was that there were things that were built for the home, which are much cheaper. So people are charging their car, these electric vehicles, out of their home, and those things were $2,000, $3,000, $4,000. They were cheaper. But then the Level 3 that you're starting to see along the side of the highways, they're going into gas stations, they're going into hotel parking lots, they're starting to pop up all over. Wherever there's like a convenient spot. Hold on, let me get to the price. Hold on. You're starting to, hold on. Let's do it this way. Well, these were upwards to 100, but like they're starting to see these ones that are coming in like looking like this, these level 3 ones where they're looking like Tesla is actually buying them, putting it together, the things. Those are anywhere from 40 to 140,000 each. And so those are enormously expensive. And it's something that whenever I show this, whenever I show it, I go, hey, we took this price and kind of carved it down the middle for a level 3 electric car charger. It's something to be aware of, that it can get really expensive. So you start to see them in your jurisdiction. Please be aware that it can be very expensive. All right, so there was another question. Oh, so this is from a customer. At times, after I have created an estimate and saved, the business owner info is not saved. What is causing this? Doesn't always do this. Okay. Yes, that was brought to our attention last week or 2 weeks ago by a customer, gosh, I think in Georgia, that we have a bug and we were trying to work out the bug. It doesn't always do this, and we're trying to figure that out. That is, we will send an all users announcement when we fix that bug. So every once in a while, it's not saving the business owner, and it doesn't happen all the time, and so I've not been able to recreate it, but we have figured out how that we have it. I'm hoping that in the next release, maybe by this Friday, we'll have that resolved. So hopefully that answers your question. I'm sorry about that. Another question, how about cannabis manufacturing production? Do you have assets for those? Okay, that's a new industry ask, cannabis manufacturing production. I will submit that. If you've done research on one of those, we would love to hear from you. Please send me a note, because a lot of these, we have to put all the effort into it. And then if you're an expert, like I've had a customer in Oklahoma who does oil rig stuff, and we're not experts on that. And so like if you want to help us out and be a super user, I'll totally give you credit and a huge shout out for that. So please reach out if you've already done some homework on that, because if not, we're going to start from scratch. All right, are there any other questions before I keep going? Oh, it's getting late, so let me go back. I'm going to do one more question, a poll question. So hold on, let's see if I can figure this out. Okay, so this one is, do you conduct annual canvassing? I'm just throwing that out there. It's a totally different kind of question. It kind of goes to the canvassing part. Do you conduct annual canvassing for new closed businesses? Do you do canvassing every year, the whole jurisdiction? Do you do every other year, whole jurisdiction, every third or more year, whole jurisdiction? We kind of sort of like to, if we have time, wish we could, maybe don't have the staff, or never get to it, but it's on our minds. I'd love to know where you guys are on that and canvassing. Okay, there's another question. Is there an export function that can be integrated with assessment software? Okay, so in CAVS, you're hoping to export. So there is no export of like all of the there is no export of like all of the assets and all the values, but there is, once you've created the form, of course, you can download the form and you can print it. But we kind of don't want to provide all of the asset creation and the values in an exportable version, because then people will just, it's like it's the secret sauce, if you will. So it's kind of it would defeat the purpose of the product to hand out like how all that behind the scenes information. Hopefully that answers your question. Okay, please. So hopefully you're still, if you have a question, please. I try to answer all the questions as I can as I go through. All right, we have a lot of people in the canvassing that are doing every year whole jurisdiction. I mean, good for you. I found that that's harder. I'm kind of shocked at the results. We have one that we kind of sort of like to, if we have time, because I have talked to a lot of jurisdictions where they're in that bucket. But every year whole jurisdiction, and good for you guys. Okay. All right, it is getting on to 2:50. So we've been doing this for about 50 minutes, and I feel like I've done a lot. Oh, let me cover one more thing on CAVS. We do have the ability for you to, there's a help button, of course, and there's also an admin function where you have the ability to create and delete users and change names and things like that. And I believe that covers everything on that. And oh, there's another question. Any factoring for depreciation? Okay, so all right, so that is handled mostly through, let's go into my estimates. Let's go back to the, I'm going to do, oh, you know what I did is I archived Victoria's. I'm going to unarchive Victoria's thing here. I unarchive it. I go back to my estimates. There's Victoria's food. And now I'm going to go back into edit. Okay, so there's Victoria's food. I can change things in here now. Now you're saying, can I depreciate? Well, we allow you to change the values here. So if you want to change values there, we allow you to change the values by changing the number of people. That changes the values and things, but that's not really it. And then we have customers kind of using this as a factor for depreciation, but like what the spirit of this product, right? The spirit of this product was to create a repeatable process that gave you the ability to articulate to the board that you have a fair and equitable process to create repeatable assessments on the same kind of business. Whether your team has turnover or not, they have a starting point that you can articulate in front of the board that, like, hey, this is why we're fair and equitable, is that we start here and then this is how we create our assessments, no matter, you know, if it's someone with 15 years experience or someone who just started last month, they're starting in the same type of template. And so that's kind of the spirit of it. So if you want to like depreciate it from that end, so that's that. And oh, there's another question. Hold on here. Where do you get your values? That's a great question. So our history and our DNA is conducting business personal property audits, and we still do that to this day. Some many jurisdictions actually hire us to do business personal property audits. And what we did is, from that, we have from what we have encountered, we started to build out a list of the assets that we were typically finding, so that when we hired a new auditor, we'd say, hey, if you're going to go to this thing, this is what we're typically looking for. And then we ran into, we had a customer in Tennessee who said, I got called in front of the board for creating an unfair assessment, and I had to defend my process, and I realized I didn't have a process. And the CEO at the time said, you know, we could build a process. And so at the time, those are the values, and every year we update the values of all the assets so that it keeps up with the times. There was a period in our recent history that the inflation rate went nuts, and that was not typical. And so we debated about using AI to hit many different sources to change the values in a much more dynamic way. And we did not implement that because during those times of inflation that was severe, the values changed so dramatically that you could log in and things would be different day to day. So we didn't want to do it that way. But imagine that the spirit behind this was, these are the typical values that we're seeing. If you're in a richer part of the country where prices are more expensive, there are different ways for you to add to our estimate. But you got to remember, we're trying to build a product that was usable across the country. So this is, like I said, we're in 16 states now, and we're expanding, and so we pegged the prices where we could. But the spirit was there. If you understand what we're trying to create. Hopefully that answered your question. Okay, so it's getting late. We have a couple minutes left. I'm going to throw this out there. If you want a longer demonstration or some sort of conversation or whatnot, you have my contact information. An email was sent. That is me. Hopefully at the bottom of that email was my cell phone. I guess because when Victoria did it, I'm hoping that worked out. I'm also hoping that if you guys are interested in our other parts to this, remember when we were doing the solution, we envisioned it to have these other pieces. One of them was the canvassing tool, and the other was a case manager to track it, and then CAVS was like a third phase. We're currently building the fourth phase, which we call Audit Factory, which would have sample letters and things like that, so that you could say, hey, this is a new business that's not compliant, and you would pick one of the sample letters, and it would pre-populate the information with your logo, and it would create the letter for you that you'd already pre-approved, and then it would track it in the case manager. And that was hopefully going to be super awesome. Cell phone was not okay. Here's my cell phone at the bottom. Can you see my screen still? There's my cell phone at the bottom and my email. If you guys want to reach out, let me know. I can do a longer demo on all the things, and oh, I'm going to cover one last. I don't want to say it out loud on the pricing, but if you want to stick around, I'm going to stop the recording because I don't want to say the pricing in case in 3 years from now the pricing changes. Although in 3 years we've not changed the price on CAVS. But I'm going to stop the recording right now, if I can. Manage recording, stop recording.